speakers, dear participants, it is a great honor and a pleasure for me to present my greetings as ambassador of Italy in Japan at the opening of this third webinar of the series towards climate neutrality within 2050, dealing with Italy-Japan approaches for electrochemical energy storage. The webinar is organized by the Embassy of Italy in Tokyo through our scientific counselor, Professor Enrico Traversa, under the framework of the Italian Research Day in Japan 2021. Italy, as co-host of COP26 with the United Kingdom and holding the G20 presidency for this year, advocates a paramount role in climate change fight. Today, we will concentrate on electrochemical energy storage and batteries after the state-of-the-art presentation of hydrogen technologies and solar energy research in the previous very successful webinars. The engagement of Japan towards decarbonization within 2050 was strengthened last week by the announcement of Prime Minister Suga that Japan will target 46% reduction of CO2 emissions within 2030, increasing ambition from the previous 26% value. This Japan commitment opened an intense discussion within the country about how to achieve the climate neutrality strategic goal and its economic viability. Among the initiatives for boosting technologies for climate change remediation, the effort of METI, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan, is particularly remarkable with the development of a new green growth strategy. I am very pleased that today Mr. Uehara of METI will give us an overview of the green growth strategy with specific focus on batteries. The increase of use of renewable energy in the energy mix is essential for a smooth transition to a zero carbon future. However, due to the intermittent nature of renewables, storage is needed to balance the energy demand. I am delighted that Dr. Russo will present the role of battery storage to tackle this problem with an industrial perspective from an Italian company also very active in Japan. Decarbonization of the mobility sector involves the use of electric vehicles powered by batteries. The presently used lithium batteries present limitation for a wide deployment, and thus the investigation of next generation batteries is actively pursued in Italy and in Japan. Our distinguished speakers, Professor Kanno, Professor Soavi, and Dr. Nakayama will present outstanding examples of this research, both from academic and industrial viewpoints. In summary, aim of this event is to illustrate the current status of electrochemical energy storage technologies in Italy and in Japan, thus exploring the possibility of further collaboration and synergies. Please enjoy the webinar. I wish you a very fruitful discussion and a stimulating learning experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Good morning, everybody. in Italy, and good afternoon for everybody in Japan. I'm very happy to introduce this discussion on electrochemical energy storage and batteries. And I encourage the participants to give questions in the question and answer box of the Zoom. I'm not sure if I will be able to follow the question, but I mean, I will take care about those questions while during the roundtable with the participants. Unfortunately, I have to regret that Tosca Baruco, for unexpected reasons, was unable to submit her video, but she sent her greetings to everybody. So we can start the webinar with a presentation of Eiji Uehara, the Director of International Affairs Office, Industrial Science and Technology Policy and Environment Bureau of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan, that will give us an overview of the METI green growth strategy with the focus on batteries. Mr. Uehara, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Is okay?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity today. It's my pleasure to talk to you. And I will introduce green growth strategy of Japan and the general direction of battery-related policies. So I prepared 20 pages presentation, so it's maybe too long to finish in 10 minutes. So maybe I'll quickly explain my presentation. So next, please. So green growth strategy, let me explain its background. January last year, we released the environmental innovation strategy that focused on research and development of 39 technology themes. And last fall, our Prime Minister announced Carbon Neutrality 2050 target. In order to achieve that target, we need to have a strategy on deployment and implementation of such technologies. As the government of Japan, we show stakeholders ambitious target and provide supporting measures to the private sector in order to achieve the target. Next page, please. So investment towards carbon neutrality should be a chance for further development of our economy. Well, it's very easy to say, but difficult to realize it. Therefore, our government presented a vision and a target as a first step to motivate business players. And also, we identified 14 potential sectors for the carbon neutrality in 2050. Next page, please. So let me explain about the 14 sectors. First of all, in order to achieve carbon neutrality, power generation sector should be decarbonized. To do so, we have 4 points. Number one, renewable energy will be introduced as much as we can. And at the same time, grids and batteries will be installed. For this purpose, wind turbine sector and battery sector is the potential growing sector. Number two, hydrogen power generation. We will seek it as an option. And supply and demand of hydrogen will be the issue. And number three, the thermal power generation. Our country does not have large natural resources production that we can use for power generation, and we need to import it from overseas. In order to secure stability of power distribution, we need to use thermal power generation with CCUS or carbon recycling technology. And we pursue this as an option as well. In this aspect, we will focus on carbon recycling technology and fuel use of ammonia technology. And number 4, nuclear power generation. If you read this sentence, it may be difficult to understand, but we will maximize utilization of existing infrastructure while aiming to decrease dependency on a nuclear reactor. At the same time, we will challenge safer next generation reactor technology as well. Next slide, please. Regarding the sectors that is not power generating sector, we seek decarbonization of such sectors. In order to do so, we will electrify these sectors, and for energy demand, which is difficult to replace by the electricity, we use hydrogen or biofuel technology, etc. At the same time, digital technology is a key to meet the supply and demand in an effective and efficient manner. So we put the priority in this area as well. So please move on to the next page. So following 2 pages are the reference energy mix in 2050, which was prepared for discussion purpose. So I do not explain in detail, but when you see the next page, please, the general idea is reducing the energy demand itself, I mean the energy consumption, decreasing the energy consumption, and at the same time replacing the let's say when you see the middle part, electricity part, you can see the decarbonized electricity source. So there's no carbon emission at this part, and upper side, if you see the non-electricity part, partly we use hydrogen on other energy source, but we have to remove somewhat kind of leftover of the fossil fuel CO2 emission. So when you see the bottom, you can see the DAC or plantation in order to sequestrate the kind of leftover CO2 emissions. So this is a general idea. And please move on to the next page. So as for the 14 potential sectors, which we will identify through explained consideration, we prepared action plans for it. Depending on its technological development level, we will employ appropriate policy tools for the sectors for further and faster development. And please move on to the next page. Here is the detail of the 5 policy tools. For the government funding, we have 2 trillion yen budget for R&D activities for over 10 years. And currently, we are preparing for its execution. And also, we have a tax incentive to support private investment. And we will provide a guideline for promoting transition finance. Regulatory reform is also important part, and important part to realize better conditions for innovation and implementation. And last but not least, international collaboration will be also considered. So please move on to the next page. These are the 14 growing sectors. As you can see, we have 4 sectors under energy umbrella and 7 sectors under transport manufacturing umbrella, and 3, and the home office umbrella. So this is the general introduction of our green growth strategy. And today we are going to focus on the battery part. So please move on to the next page and move on to the next page, please. Thank you. So as for the battery related sectors, we put under the mobility and battery sector, and also housing and building next generation PV sector. So, and please move on to the next page. Yes, you will not be able to see these small letters, so I do not explain in detail. And if you want to see the detail, please search Green Growth Strategy METI, and you can find 80 pages report, which include this roadmap as well. And let me explain in short. This is a roadmap of automobile and battery industries, and the bottom part is the battery roadmap. And also the please see the next page. It's, yes, it's very small, but we put battery part in the home and office sector roadmap as well. But it says, as you can see, the just see the automobile and storage battery roadmap. So this doesn't mean much to it, but yes. So this is the overall explanation of the roadmap. And when you see the detail of the policy matters, please move to the next page. Next slide, please. Yes. So I divided it into battery for mobility sector and stationary battery technology. So firstly, let me explain about the battery for mobility sector. And as you know, in order to increase the number of EV, these issues should be solved. And among these issues, we focus on the cost of the battery and recycle of the battery as well. So please move on to the next page. So in order to reduce the cost, production scale up is one method. And at the same time, we need to further support the research and development of its technology. For example, investing government budget in innovative battery technologies. And please move on to the next slide. And also the recycling is another aspect to be focused on, especially when we increase the use of the battery. We'll seek a battery recycling system. And as you know, the European Union is trying to introduce battery recycling system. So I think the global harmonization of these systems will be one of the issues to be considered in the future. And please move on to the next slide. Yes, here I am going to explain about the stationary batteries. Yes, here are 5 major issues for further use of stationary batteries. Again, production cost and the distribution cost, installation cost, product evaluation, and I say opportunity. And in these each issues, we need to find out a way forward. And the next slide is kind of the possible policy measures in order to resolve these issues. And Yes, as for the production cost, we are going to have a kind of a demonstration project, and also we need to see that market requirement as well. And as I explained, there will be a tax incentive for the production facility. And number two, the distribution cost. I mean, this one is kind of application procedure in order to connect to the grid. So in order to reduce such cost, maybe one possible option to solve that issue. And also the installation cost. Yes, it be difficult to control such cost, but sharing price information could be a one option to enhance such discussion here. And also the standardization of necessary evaluation items will be required, and also the again demonstration project could be a way to enlarge market size here in Japan. So we will consider these items, and we're going to prepare for the further installation of these batteries in the future. So this is my end of the presentation. Maybe the battery part is a bit not enough for the kick off the discussion today, but if you have any question, I'm happy to answer it as much as I can. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. It's really great to see the effort of METI in going reaching the goal of decarbonization in 2050. So now we can start with the scientific topic of the webinar. And the first talk will be presented by Professor Kanno of Tokyo Institute of Technology. And he will talk about all solid-state batteries. Giorgio, please, the floor is yours.
So it is right. Right figure? Is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I also thank the organizer for inviting this Italy Japan meeting. My topic today is just the special topics, all solid state batteries. I would like to summarize the current situation of these new battery systems.
Excuse me, but how to say, the screen is not the presentation mode, right? 菅野先生、なんか、発表者モードになってませんか、これ。
発表者モードになってますか。
逆に。
Oh, yes. Good. よろしいですか。はい。Thank you very much. So, just a brief introduction. 10 years ago, no one believed that the all-solid state could be an actual form of battery. Fortunately, after we found the materials, we call it LGPS, which has ion conductivity comparable to that of the liquid electrolyte, more and more people have begun to think that solid state might be a form of battery. Although many people are now interested in the new battery system, we still have a question Both battery will lead the future electrochemical energy storage systems. To understand this situation, it is worth to look back on the history of the battery. Then I show materials, LGPS, that may trigger the change from liquid to solid. Well, the history of the battery, from the Baghdad batteries, Volta batteries, to lithium-ion battery. For a long time, battery is composed of two solid electrodes with liquid electrolyte. Among the many battery systems, the most successful battery is a lithium-ion system. This is a remarkable battery system that utilizes intercalation reaction for both the positive and negative electrodes. This battery was commercialized in 1991, but material research on the intercalation chemistry of lithium date back to 1970s. In other words, after more than 20 years of material research, the lithium-ion system was born. This is the NEDO roadmap for batteries. It's a bit old, 2013 version, but it's a good representation of the situation at that time. The lithium-ion battery is a great system, but our society demands a better battery system. For this purpose, new batteries are being proposed. This map shows the lithium, sodium, multivalent cations, lithium sulfur, and metal air batteries. Unfortunately, solid-state batteries are not shown in this graph because they are not supposed to be a battery at that time. This is a schematic diagram of a battery. Normally, solid are used for the electrode and liquid for the electrolyte. Solid-state battery just replace the liquid part with a solid. The challenge is, of course, the electrolyte. The advantage of a solid-state battery is that they are easy to laminate. They can increase capacity as a package, and they can improve safety and reliability. However, the benefit of using solid-state have not been demonstrated. The most important part of the solid-state battery is the electrolyte, a material that allows ion to diffuse in solid at high speed is called an ion conductor. Currently, the material with the highest ion conductor is the copper one. Its ion conductivity at room temperature is about 0.3 Siemens per centimeter, which is about the same as that of an aqueous solution electrolyte. The highest conductivity among lithium-ion conductor is the LGPS type materials shown here. It has a value of 10 to the minus 2, which is one order of magnitude lower than the copper ion conductor. The continuous distribution of lithium-ion in the structure can be seen. This is the so-called super ion conducting state. I just summarized here the condition for the battery here. But anyway, after we found our LGPS materials, we could fortunately demonstrate that the advantage of the all-solid-state should be its power characteristics. This is a Lagon plot. This diagram is a measure of the abilities of an energy device. The vertical axis is the power, and the horizontal axis are energy density, and the larger of both, the better the devices. Lithium-ion batteries can take both power and capacity. All solid-state battery here much higher power density than lithium-ion battery. Then all solid-state is being described as the candidate of the next generation batteries. From 2018, a new NEDO project started for developing processing technology for the solid-state battery with these target properties. Solid-state battery have been included in the roadmap for the first time, and are now positioned as a major player in next generation batteries between the current lithium-ion battery and the next generation post-lithium-ion batteries. Here I summarize the history of the solid-state batteries. This is very complicated, but I just want to say here that the solid-state battery research has a long history. So this is an overview of solid-state batteries. Solid-state battery as an energy device is a bulk type, which consists of powdered electrode and electrolyte. Each powder is mixed to form a cathode composite and anode composite. The surface of the cathode particles is stabilized by a coating to allow the electrochemical reaction to operate. It is important to make the electrode and electrolyte tightly contact each other and how to increase the ratio of electrode in the electrode compound. The most challenging topic is the electrolyte that can be available source for solid-state batteries. This figure shows how the ion conductivity of the electrolytes has increased as research has progressed. From 1960s, many new materials have been developing, silicon, nacicon, garnet, azurite, and currently the materials with the highest ion conductivity are the LGPS-based materials. This data shows that once a basic structure suitable for ion conduction is found, the conductivity gradually increases along with the time as the research progresses. Here is the Arrhenius plot of the ion conductivity of the lithium electrolytes together with aqueous solution of lead acid batteries. We can divide the materials into several groups. The first one, the highest conductive group for aqueous solution system, for example, for lead acid batteries. The second group is lithium-ion batteries and lithium solid electrolyte with LGPS azurite. The conductivity values are an order of 10 to the minus 2 at room temperature. The third group is the oxide-based lithium garnet, much lower conductivities. Other materials like polymer with lower values. The higher the ion conductivity of the electrolyte, the more power the battery has. It is clear that the lead acid battery with this conductivity region can take higher current easier than lithium-ion battery with a second electrolyte group. This issue of lithium-ion battery, this is the issue for the lithium-ion battery, that is the low ion conductivity of the electrolyte. One more thing, among the group 2, solid electrolytes have advantage over the liquid system because of high ionic transport number. Well, I'll here show our materials, the LGPS materials. This is the first report of the LGPS showing its conductivity. Room temperature conductivity is comparable to the liquid electrolyte and exceeds at lower temperatures. This is the crystal structure of the LGPS that is quite unique, and this is very suitable for ionic transport in the crystal structure. This is also the first report of the battery characteristics of the LGPS electrolyte. The charge-discharge characteristics are similar to those of liquid batteries, but it is really surprising for the solid-state battery at that time. This is the battery structure, test cell structure. The advantage of the battery or solid-state type is that we can change the combination of electrode and electrolyte in one cell. Using these advantages, we can construct the test cell and measure the battery characteristics. And here is the charge-discharge characteristic of the solid-state battery with very high current densities found to be possible at 100 degrees C at room temperature without any problem in cycling. So again, the Lagon plot. As already mentioned, it is clear that the most unique feature of the solid state is their power characteristics. The sulfide electrolyte works quite well in all solid state batteries. So there are many candidates for the sulfide type solid electrolyte. This figure summarizes these many types of solid electrolyte. Silicon, 7,3,11 materials, so-called glass ceramics, algidite, and LGPS. In the very narrow region of the ternary or quaternary diagram, many different types of crystal structure exist, and most of these structures show very high ion conductivity. Well, let's summarize the characteristics of all solid-state batteries. The challenge is whether solid-state battery can provide advantages that are not found in liquid-based batteries or in pseudo-solid-state batteries. The advantage that solid-state battery will be energy density, input-output power densities, operating temperature range, and safety. But the disadvantage will be poor electrode-electrolyte adhesion, contact, and gas generation, such as hydrogen sulfide. I'll show you here one example of the advantage of all sorts of systems over the current lithium-ion system. Simple electrochemical measurement on both the solid and liquid system show the limiting current for the liquid system, but not for the solid system. This means that the high current capability of solid-state battery is due to either the high diffusion of lithium ion in the electrolyte than in the liquid, or the larger concentration of lithium ion in the solid electrolyte than in the liquid electrolyte. In other words, the high current capability of solid-state battery is an intrinsic advantage of using solid-state form for the batteries. The ion transport number 1 for solid electrolyte is a major reason of this advantage. For developing a practical all-solid-state battery system, processing and manufacturing technology should be developed. I showed this presentation from the materials to test cell development. After this stage, a battery manufacturing process is very necessary. A major process development project is now underway, and we are expecting a lot of progress. For example, in the processing technology, both dry and wet process are currently developing. The wet process is generally used for large-scale applications, but we hope to see further development in the future. Well, this summarizes the current status and expectation. The current characteristic of lithium-ion battery are shown here, and we believe that replacing the liquid electrolyte with solid one will bring these advantages. So just a short conclusion, the battery becomes a solid state. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Giorgio, for this very interesting and comprehensive presentation. And now we are moving to a different type of batteries, always trying to challenge lithium-ion batteries and going beyond. And with example from research to spin-off company. The talk is presented by Professor Francesca Soavi of the University of Bologna. Francesca, the floor is yours.
First of all, let me thank the embassy in Italy, of Italy in Tokyo, and Professor Traversa for such kind invitation to join this interesting and very important meeting. For sure, batteries. Oh well, I'm sorry. Okay, batteries are playing a role because they are a key technology enabling a climate neutral Europe by 2050. And indeed, batteries are crucial to enable the transition toward clean energy and electric mobility. Under the strategic action plan, Europe is building a competitive, sustainable and innovative environment with the aim of covering the whole value chain of the battery ecosystem, from sustainability, extraction and processing of raw materials, design and manufacturing of battery cells, packs, use, second use, recycling and disposal. So within a circular economy complex approach. And as it concerns research and innovation action and projects, these kind of actions are supported by Horizon 2020, but Europe also even supports industry-driven projects under the European Battery Alliance, and the IPCEI is value chain is an example. It brings together many European companies, and we are proud that Italy is in. But there is also an interesting instrument, which is the Innovation Fund, that aims at bringing into the market industrial solutions for the decarbonization of Europe. And it is used also to transfer innovative ideas towards the market. And this is very interesting for a spin-offer or startuppers. And but Europe is also will keep on supporting battery development even in the future. And this is the European Strategic Energy Technology Plan roadmap in terms of increased energy density of different lithium-based chemistry versus the evolution of time. For sure, we will keep on working on lithium-ion batteries with advanced components like high voltage cathodes or silicon-enriched anodes. But as Professor Cano excellently reviewed and underlined, solid-state electrolytes will play a role to push up the energy of the system, but because they will enable the exploitation of the lithium metal that is, the holy grail in this roadmap. And coupling the lithium metal with sulfur and even with oxygen will enable to achieve outstanding specific energy that are 5 times higher than today lithium-ion batteries. However, still today, a unique battery solution that can address different applications is still missing. So it is not available, at least. So alternative battery chemistry can play a role, and this is proposed by Battery 2030 Plus, that proposes a holistic approach for battery development that is called chemistry neutral, so that can foster and propose different chemistry, different maybe from that of the lithium-ion batteries. As an example, Redox flow batteries are gaining much interest. Redox flow batteries, we do have active materials that are flown in the cell core. And this, the advantage of this kind of solution is that, unlike lithium-ion batteries, energy and power are decoupled. The energy depends on the size of the tanks that contain the active materials, while the power is driven by the size of the stack. But unfortunately, today, redox flow batteries suffer from a low energy density. And also, so this is also important, the technology that is most widely spread is based on vanadium, that is considered a critical element in Europe. Therefore, even for this kind of configuration of battery, we can see a roadmap that targets new solution playing with chemistries that are greener than vanadium, and even with other interesting components that can push up the energy of this kind of cells. Italy is playing a role in the battery development in Europe. And as an example, we have recently founded the Italian group on electrochemical energy storage that we call GISEL, that aims bringing together the major Italian research and development stakeholders working in the field of the electrochemical energy storage technologies. And the idea is to accelerate the path of innovation towards high TRLs. The group is led by Professor Mustarelli, and today involves more than 60 members from university and national labs, and even 8 company members. The GISEL includes 7 scientific sections that covers all the aspects of the battery development. So electrode materials, electrolytes, new chemistry, flow batteries, supercapacitor, safety, LCA, recycling, modeling, and characterization methods. Bologna is, that is my city, is for sure an active player in GISEL and in Italy, and specifically at the Department of Chemistry, Giacomo Ciamiccia, the Laboratory of Electrochemistry of Materials for Energetics, LEME, carried out basic and applied studies on materials for batteries. And I'm very proud to announce that very soon, maybe in the next month, as next weeks, a new lab will open. It is called EnerCube at the Research Center on Energy and Environmental C. And the mission is to be a laboratory, a new environment to transfer knowledge outside the university, to give service to companies and industries, startup, innovative spin-off. And this center is will also initiative and collaboration and labs from Fraunhofer Institute. And we are very keen to transfer our knowledge, as I said, out of the university. And so this drove us to found a spin-off that is battery, that has that aims at bringing into the market a novel concept of lithium oxygen battery. Which are the challenges of lithium-air batteries? Lithium-air batteries are promising very, very high practical specific energy, as I told you, 1,000 watt-hour per kilogram. And the classical, let's say, configuration of this kind of batteries, it's an air-breathing cell, where you have a lithium metal and electrolytes, and typically porous carbon or porous electrodes, where oxygen reduction takes place. It is exposed to air. During this charge, lithium peroxide is formed on these electrodes, and lithium peroxide, it's an insulating component. So this causes the formation of lithium peroxide limits the discharge capacity, but also causes high recharge over voltage, and then typically affects a low energy efficiency of the system. Not only high over voltage brings about high recharge voltage that in terms affects may impact on the oxidative decomposition of the electrolytes, and then affecting cycle life. Third, the oxygen, which is the active material, active component, spontaneously goes to the porous carbon and diffuse very slowly, because it's spontaneous, transport from the environment to the cell. And this slow process causes or limits the discharge rates of the cells, so a low power. Well, a few years ago, we developed a new concept of lithium oxygen battery. We call it a semi-solid flow lithium oxygen battery. In our system here, we have a lithium metal, a separator with electrolyte, there is a porous current collector, but the porous current collector intercepts a semi-solid fluid, a fluid that is composed of the oxygen-enriched electrolyte where carbon particles are dispersed. So this fluid is electronically conductive. Well, in this cell, oxygen reduction takes place on the carbon particles that intercept the current collectors. It means that the cathode current collector passivation is alleviated because the particles flow away. This means that very high impressive discharge capacity can be achieved. As an example, we were able to discharge this cell in 700 hours. And as you can see here in these TN images, the peroxide was deposited as needle on the carbons and not on the current collector. Also, that is also important, the carbon percolating networks makes this slurry conductive. And so it's like having multiple redox sites. The flow accelerates oxygen transport through the cell, and so increases the oxygen mass transport. And this enables to achieve a very high discharge compared to an air breathing cell. So, and this is from an electrochemical point of view, what is happening in our system. But I want to underline that this system integrate in a new unique solution the advantage of redox flow batteries with that of the flexibility and the modularity of redox flow battery with the high specific energy of lithium oxygen batteries. Therefore, we founded Battery, which is a spin-off of University of Bologna, that aims to bring into the market this unique solution that we called the new semi-solid flow lithium oxygen battery, NESOX. Well, the advantage, practical advantage of this technology is for sure the energy that we already demonstrated at being higher than 500 watt-hour per kilogram. And the cost that rated to the energy can be lower, 30% lower than that of lithium-ion batteries. But there is also another unique advantage. Indeed, we can recharge this battery by plugging it to the grid, but also physically. I mean, we can fastly substitute the slurry like refueling our system. That brings the speed of recharge to minutes instead of hours. And also the system we demonstrate, which is pretty sustainable, and we can reduce the carbon footprint for its production. Indeed, we don't use heavy metal, and we can exploit biochar for the carbon present in the slurry. And also, given that this electrode, let's say, is a liquid, we do not need costly environmentally harmful electrode preparation processes. At least the solid part of the slurry can be recovered, recycled, by simple physical means. This is the roadmap of Battery, and it really, we have many action to take, both from the technical point of view, R&D point of view, and even from the business point of view. And one of our target is for sure setting new partnership with players in this in the battery field. As it concerns the technological roadmap, our last prototype was, that is shown here, is already available to anticipate the European set plan roadmap, as you can see here. And along with the stack, we were also able to develop a testing platform, a tailored testing platform with, in collaboration with MISTER, that is a public-private partnership company that is located in Bologna, and aims to, its mission is to accelerate the startup technology and business. Our R&D is focused on the cell and flow management, on the development of semi-solid catholytes with optimized composition, and for sure, as anyone who is exploiting lithium metal, in optimizing the lithium metal interface to make these batteries more solid and reliable. As it concerns the modeling of the cell, we have developed a semi-empirical approach that is very useful to model the power balance in our system. That it enables to a rational design of the cell that has to maximize the electric power output while minimizing the power losses that are related to the cathode flow. And indeed, in our last prototype, we exactly exploited this kind of approach. For sure, we are playing also with the chemistry and the composition of our system. We demonstrated that the carbon type and content in the semi-solid slurry is very important. And specifically, we demonstrated that smaller and fractured carbon particles create a better network and a high electronic conductivity is achieved in the slurry. This in turn impact in lowering the overvoltage and thus increasing the discharge rate of the cell. And also, we demonstrated that super concentrated electrolytes can play a role. This new class of electrolytes is very promising for their electrochemical stability, but we also demonstrated an additional feature of these electrolytes. Instead, besides the wide electrochemical stability, super concentrated electrolytes by their ionic environment can shield carbonaceous particle interaction and enable a better dispersion and a higher electronic conductivity, as you can see here. So it means that even by this approach, you can improve the conductivity of the electrode and therefore achieving lower overvoltage. So in summary, my message is Europe and Italy is really trying to contribute and working to reach the European Green Deal challenging goals by development of advanced battery by an interdisciplinary approach that can also open new scenarios and new application of our systems. And batteries in particular is anticipating the European roadmap by NESOX. It is the first semi-solid lithium oxygen flow battery that has already demonstrated to work at very high specific energy rate, let's say. By our skills in the development, in the design of electronically conductive slurries, we feel that we can for sure also improve the performance of other marketed redox flow batteries, maybe based on green chemistry, different alternative to vanadium. So our conductive slurry can improve the performance of our systems. And for sure, our technology and business roadmap will be, it includes, as I mentioned, the setting new collaboration and partnership that are very needed for accelerating our concept and our products. So finally, let me thank the battery team and for sure the laboratory of electrochemistry of materials for energetics, where everything started. And all of you for your kind attention. We're pleased to take any question.
Thank you very much, Francesca, for your very nice talk, also for having given an introduction about the EU policies on batteries, which was definitely very helpful for, especially for the Japanese speakers. So now we can move to the next talk, which is, we start to open an industrial perspective for the development of next generation batteries. And the talk is given by Dr. Yuri Nakayama of Murata Manufacturing. So Yuri, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. So let me share my screen. Can you see that?
Yes, everything is fine.
Okay, good. Right. Thank you very much. My name is Yuri Nakayama. I'm a research scientist of Murata Manufacturing Corporation, Japan. Today, my talk is not so scientific, so please take it easy and enjoy the story. Okay, so let me start. Today, I'd like to introduce my company at first, and then talk about our strategies for social issues, especially for carbon neutrality. So let me start. Murata is an electronic company started in 1944. So let me use my pointer. By making ceramic capacitors. And we have grown for 77 years to hold 74,000 employees and produce $14 billion sales per year. We are providing a lot of electronic products such as capacitors, filters, and various electronic devices. But I know it's hard to see, for you to see what Murata is. And so let me show you where we are actually. So where is Murata in the world? The answer is we are in your pocket. So let's see your smartphone. Around 100 components are installed in one product. So can you see that? And actually, please remember that you are always carrying 1,500 Murata's components in your pocket. So we are always with you. This is the reason why we are responsible for your issues, responsible for your social issues. Today, I like to focus on the carbon neutrality. So let me show you our 3 strategies for zero carbon dioxide emission. One is the introduction of eco products. The second is installation of renewable energies. The third one is the development of renewable energy system. Before I get into the detail, let me show you our CO2 emission. Due to our company's growth, together with M&A, mergers, and acquisitions, our CO2 emissions got almost doubled in the past 10 years. So we had a plan to decrease it, but last week, Prime Minister Suga changed it drastically. According to his declaration, we have to decrease our CO2 emissions by 46% compared to that in 2013. That means we have to decrease our CO2 emission down to 460 kiloton per year. That is almost 1/3 of the emission today. So we have to decrease it 1/3 in 10 years. Actually, 46% is a strange number. Nobody knows why it's 46. Whatever the reason why, I do respect his brave decision. His declaration means that Japan will put on the highest priority on the environmental issue, that is the carbon neutral. Murata, as a Japanese company, will do the best to achieve the goal. So let me show you 3 strategies to achieve it. The first one is the introduction of eco products. The concept is really simple. Miniaturization of our products means to reduce the use of parts, materials, and energies. So when our product is the smallest in the world with its highest performance, it would be the most effective energy saving. The second one is the installation of renewable energy. We used a company parking lot like this. In Okayama Prefecture, it's located in Japan here, to install the largest parking lot-based mega solar system in Japan, which contribute to the CO2 emission reduction around 2,000 tons per year. Last year, we joined the program called RE100 in order to accelerate the installation of renewable energies. The goal is to cover 100% of business operations with renewable energy by 2050. The last one is our business expansion. In 2017, 4 years ago, we obtained batteries business department from Sony, the company that developed the first lithium-ion battery in the world, to explore a new business field in energy. These are our battery products. We are manufacturing lithium-ion batteries both in laminate type and in cylindrical type. And we are also making some coin type primary micro batteries, such as silver oxide and lithium metal batteries. These are our products at this moment. And in the next slide, I will show you the direction of research and development for the future battery technologies. Actually, we have 3 directions. One is to accelerate, to improve the present lithium-ion batteries. The second one is to develop the old solid-state batteries like this. The third one is the research and development of next generation battery. All these directions lead to carbon neutral. I'll show you that. The first one is regarding the advanced lithium-ion batteries. We are focusing on to improve the reliabilities and safety. Olivine type lithium iron phosphate cathode is a key material, showing the 15,000 cycle reliabilities, which is called Voltarian. By providing the Voltarian as energy storage system like this, we will accelerate the effective renewable energy utilization. This is the direction. The second one is to develop all solid-state lithium-ion batteries. By combining the manufacturing technologies for multi-layer ceramic capacitors with lithium-ion battery technologies, we are now exploring the new possibility of lithium-ion battery. Recently, we have successfully demonstrated the 3.8 volt charge and discharge performance at room temperature with our all solid-state batteries. Thanks to the high temperature durability, we are now able to implement battery on board directly. With this battery module, both IoT and AI, Internet of Things and artificial intelligence, have new opportunities that may help us utilize energy storage, maximize energy efficiency, and lower our overall carbon emissions. This is the second way we are pursuing. Last but not least is the development of next generation batteries. By changing the electrode material from conventional lithium cobalt oxide and graphite to higher capacity ones such as sulfur and metals, we are going to realize the larger energy densities than beyond the limit of lithium-ion batteries. This would lead to the carbon neutrality as well. I'll show you that. The left figure shows that electrification of mobilities would have a big impact on carbon dioxide emission, like this. Last week, Honda declared their decision that they will increase the ratio of battery electric vehicle (EV) and fuel cell electric vehicle (FCV) to 100% by 2040. I think they are brave, and at the same time, this is a big chance for us because they need next generation batteries with larger energy density than lithium-ion batteries. So we will realize our carbon neutrality by developing the next generation batteries. Okay, so at the end of my presentation, let me show you our story. In 1991, we brought breakthrough innovations to the world by practical implementation of lithium-ion batteries called LIBs. 30 years later, lithium-ion batteries will supply energies to all kinds of electronics, and their use is expanded to include power tools and energy storage system and automobiles. So LIB is one of the most important devices in modern society. Then with COVID-19 pandemic, future society, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. The world is increasingly uncertain. We need hope. So Murata creates the hope for the future. So we will bring the happiness to the people and society by creating the renewable energy system in the future with our well, electronics and batteries. I'd like to thank to Yuichiro Asakawa, Hitoshi Katakura, Kiyoshi and Keisuke and Seth, and my colleagues in Murata and in the world. So we are open for the collaboration, and so if you are interested in our activity, please contact to the URL here or get in touch with me. This is a building where I am now. Actually, I'm on the 15th floor. This is located in Minato Mirai District, Yokohama, in Japan. So why don't you visit me after the emergency state is released? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yuri, for this very nice presentation. I'm very surprised and positively surprised by the way that you took the announcement of the cut of CO2 emissions for 2030.
All right.
Because the Japanese government selected 2013 as a baseline because that was the maximum of emissions, while for Murata that was not the maximum of emissions, was already low. So the now reaching that target is particularly difficult.
Yep, right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we move now to the last talk, which is so we change a little bit topic, always batteries, but the role that battery can have in storage solutions by Dr. Eliano Russo from E-Industries NLX. Dr. Russo, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the Italian Embassy for this kind invitation. It's indeed a pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to share the Enel experience with everything that is related to the promotion of battery energy storage solutions. So I will start by saying good morning to all the Italian friends that are based in Italy, and good afternoon to all the friends that are based in Japan. I prepared a very brief presentation that we can follow. So please let me know if you can see my screen. Maybe before I start, a couple of words about the Enel Group. The Enel Group is is a global utility today that has a capitalization of almost 90 billion euro and nearly EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization of around sorry for interruption, 18 billion euro. NLX, the company I'm working for, is a division within the NL Group that is responsible for developing energy innovative solutions with the objective of accelerating the energy transition. I really would like to thank all the panelists for the previous presentation, because I think we started by looking at the ambition of the Japanese government in terms of decarbonization, and then we went through a deep dive on technologies, and more specifically on batteries. The ambition presented by METI is an ambition that is shared by the NL Group, of course. Today, we have almost 90 gigawatt of installed capacity. Almost 50 gigawatt of this installed generation capacity is renewable. So the NL Group already started many years ago a path towards decarbonization. And this is finalized to also promote the electrification of consumption. That is one of the strategic pillars that METI was referring to as a way to decarbonize the economy in Japan. Here on this chart, you find some figures just to get a better understanding of the size of the NL Group. We have basically more than 70 million customers, talking about retail, so people to whom we sell energy. These are indeed points of delivery rather than customers. So behind those points of delivery, of course, there are people, industries, and so we can easily say that we are providing energy to 500 million people around the world. We have a strong presence in the distribution side, where we have 74 million end users, with presence in countries from Italy, Iberia, Latam, North America. And we also manage more than 6 gigawatt of demand response. This is a specific topic I would like to highlight, because demand response is a source of flexibility. You know, we said that we are pushing in the direction of promoting renewables. Renewables, as we all know, are not dispatchable, and this is why we need to find additional source of flexibility to continue assuring a constant equilibrium between supply and demand. Today, the focus is on batteries, and batteries do offer a similar service to customers and to the grid. And so today I would like to show to you, to share with you our experience in the promotion and utilization of batteries in order to accelerate this decarbonization path and promote electrification. The challenge that we discussed today are challenges that are shared globally. The battle against climate change is a battle that all the governments are focusing on, and of course is a concern not only for governments but also for companies and for individuals. Here on the right hand side, you can see throughout the different years the ranking of different categories of risks in terms of impact and likelihood. And as you can see, all the very first places are associated to extreme weather events that are becoming more frequent and even stronger, and of course are due to climate change. But then apart from the extreme weather event, of course, there are all the long-term impacts originated by the increased concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere and the increase in the average temperatures. The answer that we are trying to give as a company is an answer that is reflected also in these trends. Basically, you can see on the right hand side the evolution of the generation mix, where what Japan is targeting to achieve is something that we we can see also on a global basis where the fossil fuels that are responsible for the CO2 emission. I mean, just for you to keep in mind, the power sector on average accounts globally on 1/3 of the total CO2 emissions that are released in the atmosphere. Well, what's happening is that we see the contribution coming from thermal generation going down, and the expectation, these projections are coming from Bloomberg New Energy Finances by 2050, when Japan is targeting carbon neutrality, is to have a contribution coming from fossil fuels below 25%. Most of the shares will be recovered by traditional renewable sources, starting with solar and wind. The implication basically of this transition is what we can see on the left-hand side of the chart, because the more we produce electricity leveraging renewable sources, the better is to accelerate on the electrification path, because basically we can then use electricity to produce also thermal energy, and we can somehow replace the traditional fossil fuels and make sure that everything we generate is clean and is carbon neutral. Of course, this picture that I think we all share, and this target we all want to achieve, has some implication. As you know, in the power sector, we always need to have a constant, continuous equilibrium between supply and demand. And if this is something that it's easy to get when you have dispatchable sources like gas, oil, and coal, where you can basically modulate the offering, this is not always the case with renewables that, of course, are not dispatchable, are not predictable in a way, and so we are very much dependent on the availability of natural resources such as the sun and the wind. But indeed, we can couple renewables with batteries, and this is one of the applications that we will be looking at in order to understand the value that the batteries can bring to the system. Here you find on the left-hand side the ambition that some countries already expressed in terms of amount of energy that they want to generate through the support of renewable sources. Here we refer to the year 2030, but we know that today in Europe there are already countries like Italy, Germany that have a contribution coming from renewables that can go from 10 to 20%. And actually there are some days and some hours during specific days where this contribution in terms of coverage of the overall demand can already today go well above the 50%. The flexibility that is needed, of course, is a flexibility that comes from different sources, as I said, and it's also a flexibility that requires different activation time and also different duration. Here on the right-hand side, basically you see what is needed in order to preserve this equilibrium between supply and demand, and what is needed in order to assure security of supply and to avoid any kind of disruption on the electric system. We are talking about flexibility that might be needed for even milliseconds, and we're talking about ancillary services. We're talking about the frequency regulation, down to flexibility that might be needed on a much longer term in order to balance on an interannual availability, interannual variability, the availability of energy. If we look into storage, which is the topic that we are discussing today, I would like to offer you the perspective of a company that is basically leveraging batteries. So I will not enter into the detail of the technical specifications or the different options that we have. I think all the panelists made a great job in showing the options that are available today, from lithium-ion batteries to red flow batteries, flywheels. But what I would like to share with you is very much focused on what we can do with energy storage solution, the applications that we are targeting, and the value that we can we can achieve. Here is a list of services that I think it's useful to go through, just to share with you what is that we do today with batteries that we have installed on the ground. There are very basic applications like the peak shaving, where basically the idea is to reduce the peak of the demand of our customers in order to reduce their cost. As you know, the price of electricity has a power component that is linked to the maximum capacity that we take from the grid in a certain time. And the idea is that in order to reduce this peak demand and reduce this power component of the tariff, we can actually switch and take energy from the battery, which is installed on site of the customer, rather than taking it from the grid. There are other applications such as pricing arbitrage, with each basically focusing on the volatility of prices and used in order to charge the battery when the prices are high and discharge the battery when the prices are charge the battery when the prices are low and discharge the batteries when the prices are high, in order to generate value from this very simple operation. Many customers see in batteries a source of resiliency, so they also want to use a battery in order to increase their self-consumption and reduce the amount of energy they need to buy from the grid, and where possible also think about going in island mode, so basically having disconnection from the grid in order to be completely independent. Renewables are also introducing a lot of variability on the grid, and so the power quality is something that is decreasing. And here is another area where batteries can be very helpful, especially for those sectors that are sensitive to power quality and of course cannot cope, let's say, with even small variation in frequency and in voltages. Last but not least, batteries are also useful potentially to address some specific bottlenecks that we have in the grid. So instead of having to invest in order to, for example, reinforce a transmission line or a distribution line, or maybe increase the capacity of a substation, we can also work introducing batteries in order, again, to reduce during the peak time the amount of energy that is going into the grid. Here is an example of projects that we have on the ground in different parts of the world. I took as an example South Korea and some states in North America, including New York and Ontario. And the message I would like to share with you is that if, let's say, the batteries are, as we have seen, quite an old technology, because the first lithium-ion batteries were already available in the 70s. On the other hand, what is changing is the ability to use these batteries in a smarter way. What does this mean? It means that there are always multiple opportunities to either reduce cost, as we saw before, think about peak shaving, but also opportunities to generate additional revenue streams by giving those batteries access to central markets in order to generate revenues thanks to the provision of services such as ancillary services. The idea is to be able to do always the right thing at the right time, and this requires strong knowledge of the markets, both the energy market, the capacity market, the ancillary service market, and requires also the ability to anticipate, so somehow to forecast how the different markets are going to evolve. And then on the basis of these elements, there is always an opportunity to dedicate the battery to a specific application when is the right time to do that. This is also very much dependent on regulation, of course, because there are some specific applications that we can target in some markets, like the provision of ancillary services, and there are other markets which are less mature and of course do not allow to generate this extra value. But said this, if we look at everything from a global perspective, the trend we see, it's very clear. The amount of renewable generation will continue increasing across the globe, and of course, in order to push this generation on renewables and potentially target carbon neutrality as the Japanese government is targeting to achieve in 2050, we will have to add additional sources of flexibility with different activation times and different duration time. In this context, batteries will play a major role, and this is something that you can find also reflected in these projections, also in this case coming from Bloomberg New Energy Finance, where we see that basically the share of storage among the flexible asset could get close to almost 50% by 2050. The compound average growth rate is expected to be 20%. The real question mark maybe is related to where those batteries will be located. Here you find, again, an estimation coming from BNF. And you can see that most of those batteries are expected to be utility scale batteries, so placed close to the grid, but at the same time, we know that both residential and commercial and industrial customers have more and more an interest to place batteries on their sites with the objectives we saw before: increase reduce, let's say, dependency, increase resiliency, increase power quality, and of course, reduce cost. We as a group already have an established presence in several countries. Here I'm showing basically the countries where we already have battery storage solution installed. Major contribution coming from North America, but also now entering new markets such Australia, Korea, and of course, depending on the evolution of regulation, why not? We would love also to launch first projects in Japan, where today we are already present in a very active way with the provision of demand response services. We have almost 500 megawatt of flexible demand coming from commercial industrial customers, which we aggregate and we manage. And by the way, we already won 1.4 gigawatt of flexible demand to be delivered in Japan by 2024. Storage is only one of the solutions that we have in our portfolio. As I said, our ambition is to help our customers 360 degrees with everything that is related to energy, with the objective of help them to become more aware of how they buy, they use energy, support them to become more efficient, so to reduce cost associated to their activities and to become then also more sustainable, and then last but not least, monetize the flexibility that they might have associated to their loads, to their generation assets, and where available to their batteries. This is our global presence. I would like to close by giving you an overview of the type of solutions that we're able to offer in the different countries. As said, in Japan today, we're only present with demand response, but indeed we have the ambition to continue diversifying our portfolio, being able to offer additional services to our Japanese customers. And of course, we are very keen to increase our customer base. The end picture is the one that we see here, and this is my last chart, where we are trying to connect the dots. We are trying to put together all the pieces, because the jury is out. We have seen that there are multiple technologies available on the market when it comes to batteries. Each of those has their own pros and cons: energy density, power density, lifetime, number of cycles, total cost of ownership. Reality is that we don't think there's going to be a bulletproof solution. We think the world we are living today is complex, and of course, to manage this complexity, we will need all different tools and weapons, let's say, to define our position. The end picture is the one we see here, where we will have to exploit flexibility coming from different sources. We talked also about electric mobility. We know that electric cars are battery with wheels, and when they're connected to the grid, they can provide exactly the same services that can be provided by stationary batteries. We believe that in the new energy world, we will find more and more delocalized generation assets. We will have more and more charging points, and then the ability will be to aggregate all these different objects and to manage all those objects in an integrated way, with the objective of creating value for customers through cost reduction and access to revenue streams, but also creating value for the system that will have to be resilient, and of course, sustainable. This is my last chart. So thank you very much for your attention. I'll give back the floor to the embassy.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, especially for us scientists. Seeing batteries in this completely different way is very interesting. And now we can start the discussion, the roundtable. If I can summarize a little bit what I've listened, I can see that there are basically batteries that needs to go farther, needs to go beyond the lithium-ion performance in order to have more wider application both in mobilities and in storage. So larger capacities are needed. And so we had a number of examples shown of different type of batteries that are developed now for those issues. But also the storage can play a very important, a significant role for batteries for that. So I'd like to start the discussion from those points. So basically, we have seen different type of technologies illustrated. So all solid state batteries, the flow batteries, and so on. So which are the technologies that you think will have more impact in the various sectors among those technologies for the future? And which are the technologies that will resist the impact to market? So maybe I will start with Professor Canno for having his comments on that topic.
Yes. In my presentation, I just presented our all-solid-state battery, but because battery is just a battery, so we need the application, and the device need the battery. So battery itself needs the should adjust to the device, the usage. So of course, the lithium-ion system is the wonderful system, and the lithium-ion system is so wonderful so that for the battery researchers, a very difficult situation to create a new battery system. But for the application viewpoint, I don't think the lithium-ion system itself support our society for more 50 years or 100 years, because battery the progress is very slow, so very slow. So as Yuri-san showed that the lithium-ion system took already 30 years. And after 30 years, we use everywhere. So it takes time. But of course, it really connected to the device. So maybe for the future system, many battery systems may be possible. Of course, lithium-ion system still survive, and maybe in some part also state. And of course, for the storage, the Redox flow battery or oxygen flow battery is very good idea for the large scale battery. So there are many directions.
Thank you very much. Yes, of course, I didn't, I mean, I wanted to mean that lithium batteries are, of course, very good for many applications. For other applications, they show some limits, and so we need to go beyond that. Now I would like to ask Francesca about her opinion, since she's developing different kind of technologies.
Yes, I completely share the idea Professor Cano, and I mean the message that the real and true innovation takes time. It cannot be fast. So other options are already ongoing, like other metal ions batteries. And that can be an option, even if lithium cannot be considered like as critical like other elements. We know that it's not equally distributed geographically speaking. So for sure, but I'm sure that for the next years, lithium ion will lead these fields. But there is also another keyword that I would like to put in the basket, that is hybridization. So given that, I feel we share the idea that there is not a unique solution up to now that can respond very well to any application. Another great strategy is playing with hybridization, that is like integrating different kind of storing. Well, an example that is already exploited is, for instance, coupling batteries with the supercapacitors, or like many kind of different possibilities in order to tailor the practical operation of the energy storage unit, say, with the specific demand. And this is something that can be done. But as it concerns the new chemistry, what is the best one? I feel again that for sure now lithium-ion batteries are leading, as well as redox flow batteries for stationary application are for sure very interesting. For new chemistry, we will need time, but also commitment and collaboration, and a very interdisciplinary approach that can cover, as I mentioned, the value chain of the system of the this is my opinion, at least.
Thank you very much, Francesca. And so I will ask Yuri now about his opinion.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, yes, as a storage system, yes, as Professor Kanno said, lithium-ion batteries looks perfect actually at this moment. But I think for the future, we need to decrease the cost of the energy storage system. And so from that point, I think we need some other battery system. So, and my opinion is that the point is to make use of cheap element, such as sulfur as cathode material, and maybe magnesium as anode material. If we can make use of them, I think it would be very, how to say, good tool or good devices. So that is my opinion, actually.
So I mean, you mean the focus should be also on sustainability of the devices?
Yeah. Right.
Yes, that's a very important point. And so I would ask the same things to Eliano by adding also another point to discuss. So there are many other methods for storage, not only electrochemical, not only batteries. For instance, hydrogen can be used as a storage mean and other things. So do you believe that batteries is a better technology or other technologies can be also used for practical applications? Other storage technologies?
Sure. I think lithium-ion batteries production is today industrialized, and to companies like Enel, as I said before, what matters is the application. If we want to make a comparison with hydrogen, maybe I'll be a little bit provocative, but let's say as a group, we strongly believe in green hydrogen. I think what matters to us is the way we produce it, because if we really want to decarbonize, The idea is to produce hydrogen through electrolysis, basically leveraging renewable energy, because if we think about the traditional way, this requires indeed LNG gas and requires emission into the atmosphere. So first of all, we say, okay, let's think about the way we produce hydrogen. In terms of application, production of hydrogen is very expensive in terms of efficiency. So if we produce hydrogen to burn hydrogen, maybe it's not the best way to use it. We think that the best applications for hydrogen are to electrify the energy intensive sectors. So I'm thinking about iron and steel industry, for example, where today we are using coal, for example. And the idea would be to replace coal with hydrogen in order to fully decarbonize the supply chain. That would be great. When it comes to transport, honestly, I think if we're talking about heavy vehicles, yes, there might be a route for hydrogen. Today, if we think about the capillarity of charging points and the difficulties in making hydrogen available, maybe hydrogen is not really an option for small cars, because this will require a grid that today is not in place, and definitely using the gas grid is not a realistic option. So from our perspective, hydrogen can play a key role, but definitely in order to reach full decarbonization, in order to electrify consumption of energy intensive sector. This is where we see the major contribution coming from hydrogen.
Yes, thank you very much. It's very interesting, and I mean, I personally fully agree that, of course, hydrogen should be green, at least for if you want to reach the targets for decarbonization in 2050. Maybe gray can be used just in transition, but not for definitely not for the long-term target. And so about would like to touch a point on transportation. The present infrastructure would allow the substitution of all the cars that are now, I mean, the charging infrastructure present in the world would allow the use of electric vehicles completely, I mean, overcoming the combustion engine vehicles. That would be feasible for the future, or that we would have problems for that development. Maybe Eliano, if you can take it that from the point of view, if you have an answer.
Yeah, I can share our experience. In Italy, we have installed more than 12,000 charging points today, but we have a fleet that is still relatively small, because we are talking about more than 30,000 electric vehicles that we have on the road. I think it's feasible in the sense that electricity is everywhere. And of course, the installation of new charging points requires either adjustment on the grid to make this extra capacity available, or, for example, we can couple charging point with batteries as a way also to address the peak demand. Again, if we compare the alternatives we have today, when I think about the amount of energy that is needed to then be translated in mechanical energy and move the car, when I think about basically batteries, we have 100 units of energy that become 80 units of mechanical energy. When we think about hydrogen, if we talk about green hydrogen, there are several processes we have to go through, electrolysis to decouple hydrogen from oxygen, and then we also have to put hydrogen and compress it in the fuel cell. This means that from the 100 units we had at the very beginning, we end up having only 30 units powering the car. This is why I think it would be very inefficient processes. This is why I think it's better to work on the grid we have today and to make sure that car can be powered with electric energy, because I mean the industrial combustion engine is kind of an obsolete option, and of course it's not going to help us if we really want to reach carbon neutrality, as also the Japanese government is targeting to achieve by 2050.
I just want to add that like for hydrogen, the batteries are green if the energy produced is green, because the batteries themselves, they do not produce electricity. They just transform electricity. So the original source should be green if we want to have a clean process all around. So we are almost running out of time. So if somebody of the speakers want to add an additional comment, I leave the few minutes to your availability. Is anybody has something urgent to say?
Well, may I?
Sure, of course,
So
Francesca.
it seems that hydrogen can alleviate this anxiety of recharge, you know, for this physical. But I totally agree on the efficiency up to now is still not competitive with the, you know, the management of energy by batteries. So I take these few minutes just to say, why don't we think about batteries that can be refueled? So this is a vision of batteries. So trying to make you know, a kind of fast refueling that can alleviate all the other problems connected to the grid and recharge and infrastructures. But for sure, this is a very high vision. Okay.
Understand, and yes, that's a good point. So I think that there was a question on, I mean, I'm seeing that Eliano is typing the answer to that, but maybe we can make this question public and the reply public. So the question is that for the development of the storage technologies, do you need to wait for the new batteries technologies, or the present battery technology is already good for the purpose? So maybe you can make this answer public, Eliano, if possible.
Sure. I mean, the application that I showed are applications that we are already targeting today. Then, as said also by Professor Canno, prices need to continue going down. If we look at how the price of lithium-ion batteries decreased in the last 5 years, basically was reduced by 50%. And this allowed us to target additional application. This process has to continue, more or less, to observe what we have observed 10, 15 years ago with the solar panels. No, the idea is to bring costs further down, because then the cost of the technology continues going down, and this makes additional application more viable. So to answer the question, what I showed today is something we're already doing, but indeed, if we continue industrializing the supply chain and reducing cost, we will be able to do even more, and maybe applications that are not profitable today in some countries will become, and this will incentivize a further utilization of batteries.
Thank you very much. So I thank all the speakers for their very interesting talk and very interesting and successful webinar. I really think that I totally agree with the vision already expressed, that we need to integrate all the different technologies in order to solve the energy problems for the future, and in order to solve the climate problems for the future. And batteries and electrochemical storage is definitely one of the pieces that are very important for that. So thank you, everybody, again, and see you to the next webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.